Uh, Hi viewers, this is Salahuddin with the lecture number 28. In the previous lecture, we talked about the effects and importance of the American War of Independence. And this is the final and last part of the same question, the American War of Independence. In this topic, we will talk about the causes of the failure of the British government or England. So let me give you a brief overview of all those important causes which led to the failure of the British government, and then we will come to talk one by one in detail. Uh, the first cause of the failure of the British government was, of course, distance from England. Second was English underestimated the strength of the colonies. Third is unfamiliarity with the country. Fourth is incompetent generals. And fifth is incompetency in war arrangements of the English. Sixth is too much interference of George III and his ministers. And seventh is opposition of France, Spain, and other European powers. And eighth is right cause of the colonists. And ninth is the obstinacy of George III. These all were the important causes of the failure of the British government. Let's come to talk one by one in detail. The first one is distance from England. The distance between United States of America today's and England is almost 3,000 miles. America is 3,000 miles away from England. So at that time, this distance led to postponement or led to a delay in proper support, led in providing proper armaments, hardwares, and also it led to dispatch proper message on proper time. So this delay due to this long distance of 3,000 miles led to the failure of the British government. They could not provide timely support to her army. They could not provide naval support to her army, and they could also not provided could not provide the support needed for those who were fighting against the colonists. So this delay or this distance due to delay, which led to delay, resulted in the failure of the British government. Second one is English underestimated the strength of the colonies. How they underestimated the strength of the English colonies, the American colonies. The English thought that these tears and these riots, these protests are merely some national stir-ups and will easily cool down and will easily suppressed with the passage of time, and they could not lead to any proper arrangement of rights and proper arrangements of protest against the English. So this underestimation of the English, of the Americans by the English, led to strengthen the power of the Americans. The Americans, they were getting support with the passage of time. They were getting support from the masses and the subjects. So thus a huge and a monstrous procession which rose against the English people led to the defeat of the English people. So this underestimation of the Americans by the English led to the failure of the British government. And and when they took them very light, so they could not devise any serious strategy and serious mechanism to deal with the protest and to deal with the riots and to deal with those crimes they were committing as a kind of revenge from the British government. So they could not cope and they could not devise any proper and calculated strategy to deal with the Americans. So this was the second important cause of the failure of the British government. The third one is the unfamiliarity with the country. Definitely, they had no acquaintance with the English, with the American localities, and they could not understand. They could not. They could know they had no acquaintance with the forests, with the mountains. And as we all know that America is a very huge country by population. It is almost third or fourth by population in the world. So, and America is also richly populated by the forests and the mountainous regions. So those mountainous regions and those forests, the colonists, they would lay ambush to the English people and would attack them from there. So their unfamiliarity, the unfamiliarity of the British government or the British generals led to the defeat of the British government, because they could be attacked from somewhere where they had not expected any such attacks. And same is the case with the mountainous regions, where they could lay ambush and attack from such place where they had not thought of any such attacks to be killed and to be defeated in this way. Thus, in for some instance, if you read some books, there it is written that certain generals of the English, like Bourgogne and Clayton, they got astray in those forest areas, and of course they were leaders and they were generals, and when they astray in those jungles, those forest and mountainous region, definitely they had no option, and there was nowhere to support and to lead the American army, thus leading to the leading to the British army. Thus, it led to the defeat of the English people. So this unfamiliarity is the third important cause of the defeat of the English people. The fourth one is incompetent generals. Bourgogne, Clayton, Sandwich, they were inferior to Washington, and so these Clinton, Sandwich, and Bourgogne, they were inferior to George Washington, who was very wise, who was very far-sighted, and a statesman. So these incompetent generals could not devise any such calculated steps against George Washington, and they could not think farsightedly. Thus, their inferiority led to the defeat of the British government. The fifth one is incompetence in war arrangements. How there was incompetency in the war arrangements at that time. When any country or great power had to fight war against another great power, they would have two options: to have a proper linkage and a proper connection, coordination between army and navy at that time. And also at that time, navy is, in today's words, air force is of great importance, and at that time navy was of great importance, because there was no such sophisticated weapons, there was no such aerials like jets and some other equipments which the air force have and through which they can fight. At that time, navy was the only mean of fighting war against another great power. So any country having a strong and robust army would definitely would rule the world. The war arrangement in this American War of Independence by the English, they could not establish proper war arrangements, and they could not establish proper coordination between the army and the navy. And this lack of proper coordination between the army and the navy led to the defeat of the British government. This was one uh, mistake or blunder on the part of the British. The second was they hired the German soldiers who fought half-heartedly, and they would think that we have got nothing to do with the win or loss of the English war. So thus the half-heartedly fighting of the German soldier led to the defeat of the English army. So these two important arrangements in war. One is the coordination between the navy and the army. Second is hiring of the German soldier, which resulted in the defeat of the English people. The sixth important reason is too much interference of George III and his ministers. George III and his ministers, yet they knew nothing about war and they had no proper experience regarding war. Yet they would interfere in the war arrangements. Yet they would interfere and suggest on his own on the part where they had got nothing and had nothing regarding the war arrangements and to how devise strategy and to how fight a war against those colonies, 13 colonies. Secondly, they also dismiss a very great leader of the English army at that time, who was Clayton, who was dismissed on very flimsy grounds on the suggestions of some of his ministers by George III. Thus, this interference of George III and his ministers led to the defeat of the English army. Seventh is opposition of France, Spain, and other European power. Definitely, France had to avenge her defeat because France was badly humiliated in the 7 Years' War. Similarly, Spain was also humiliated in some other wars that we talked in detail in the previous lecture. And Spain, France, and other European powers, they put their share in fighting against the English people and the English army. The French, they supported the Americans by even providing edibles and armaments. And in another stage, they also sent their armies to fight against the English colonies. And secondly, how Spain supported the Americans. Spain blocked the American ships, the English ships at the Strait of Gibraltar for 3 years. So blocking their ships, blocking the provision of armaments, support, hardware, and everything, and ammunition even. So thus Spain also put their share against the English and supporting the American people. So the proper share of the European powers in the form of France, Spain, and other Europeans like Austria, Holland, they were also, and even Russia, they were against the English. So thus their share led to the defeat of the English army. The eighth one is the right cause of the colonist. What was the right cause of the colonist? Colonists thought that we need political freedom that earlier they were enjoying. So this political freedom was a kind of very objective demand of the entire Americans and the entire peoples of the colonies. And thus this one objective demand of the colonists led to the unity of all the 13 colonies, who bring them unite under the leadership of George Washington, who fought very bravely, supported by his people and his army. Thus this right cause of the colonists, who were fighting very bravely and from the very wholeheartedly against the English, led to the defeat of the English people. Secondly, The English hired the German soldiers, number first. Secondly, the English thought that, that if we win this war, George III will become more strengthened and he will become more obdurate and stubborn and and become dictator again more if we win this war against the Americans. So this the right cause of the colonists led to the defeat of the English army. The last one is the obstinacy of George III. What was his obstinacy? As we talked that he was interfering in the in the war arrangements, and yet he knew nothing regarding war. What was his obstinacy? He alienated his own subjects by his very stubborn law and becoming a kind of dictator. And people also thought that if the English win this war in America, George III will become more will, will further squeeze administration in his own hands. Thus, they thought kind of tyranny from George III, who did not want to support and who did not want to fight bravely and wholeheartedly against the American. So this obstinacy on the part of George III led to the defeat of the English people. And the second one, second important cause in his defeat was in his obstinacy was his lack of faith in his own soldiers, and hiring the German soldier was another reason which led to the defeat of the English people. So this is all about the cause of the failure of the English, and today we winded up the American War of Independence. Yet we cover in 4 or 5 lectures, but we talked in very detail and cover all the aspects of the American War of Independence. And in the next lecture, we will talk about the agrarian revolution that took place in England. So this is part today, and if there is any question regarding the American War of Independence, you must ask in the comment section, and I'm there to question your query. So thank you so much for watching the video.